Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rachak, Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect tabernacle of David that are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And I just had to, spin back on this video, where you had these two individuals that was a part of the IUIC, and they left because they couldn't handle the tyranny, coming from the leadership and the treatment. And you're gonna have that dynamic with these different camps that come in that spirit of the wicked scribes and Pharisees that was placing these burdens, these heavy burdens on brothers and sisters. And it was all about image. It was all about appearing righteous, but they were being hypocrites, because in secrecy they wasn't keeping the law the way they were imposing it on others. So I can see when you perceive that behavior and that spirit in a particular group, you definitely want to get away from them. But you don't use that as a reason to get offended at the truth, and you basically leave and go back to the plantation. But that seemed to be what Jake do, especially when they're not, strong in the faith, But anyway, I'm gonna play some of it from this timestamp, and I'm just gonna respond to some of the things that's being said, because the IOIC, they're wrong for this, but these two individuals, they were just not of the elect, because if the spirit was really with them, you wouldn't be offended at the truth. You'd probably be offended at the people that you were a part of. You'd be disappointed, and you would basically get away from them, but you would continue to push the word. You would continue to teach the doctrine. You would continue to believe that we're the true children of the Most High. All right, but you're gonna have this happen. People are going to be offended, and they're going to have a reason to no longer continue. So let's get into it. I did a lesson yesterday on it, because this the wife, she was given reason as to why they gravitated to the IUIC, not realizing how the IUIC truly gets down. When you choose a group and you choosing these camps like you're at a shopping mall, whatever's in that store that looked the most appealing, that's the store I'm gonna go into. Nah, man. The Lord, he's looking for fruit that's gonna remain. All right, and you're gonna gravitate because the word is already in you. It just got to be drawn forth from out of you. All right. The Lord said, I will stir them up by way of remembrance, though you once knew. All right. So it comes down to if you of the elect or not. That's who's going to continue in the faith. They're not going to abandon the plow or the labor. Okay, they're going to continue. They're going to endure unto the end. So let's get into it.
You wanted to maintain that image, especially as an officer, and also just as a member in IUIC, that I am a God-fearer, I'm a law keeper. And it was just a lot of trying to maintain an image and a pure righteous, and kind of just kind of hide the stuff.
Trying to maintain an image. And that's what we say about the IUIC. It's all about an image. And that's where Yahushua was getting at when it came to them wicked scribes and Pharisees, where they were, acting like they were righteous, but they appeared that way towards men. But there was a lot of inconsistencies. All right. They were the types that, they got to see if your fringes is on your garment. They wear the phylacteries. They had the whole look down packed. But when you investigate into their personal secret lives, they was being wicked. They were with sin. And that's a lesson, that you will learn even when you read about the story of the Israelite woman that was caught in the act of adultery. And the Lord came in and they actually came to him about the woman, and they said that she was caught in the act of adultery. What do you say we should do? And he kneeled down and started writing on the ground. And then he said, well, he that is without sin cast the first stone. And they had to think about that, like, shit, self-conviction. And then he looked up and realized everybody was gone and she was still standing, So that was a lesson taught. And where are these guys, your accusers? They're not around. All right, well, I don't condemn you either. Go and sin no more. Repent. And these guys, it's all about the outward appearance, man. So let me get that in Matthew 23. It talks about they make outward, that cup. Yeah, this is Matthew 23 and 25. Let me get it in the New Living. Matthew 23 and 25, and it says, "What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are so careful to clean the outside of the cup and the dish," and that's the outside appearance. Where's your fringes, brother? They got the beards, they got their fringes, they got their boots on. They got the little spike bands on their forearm. Those are all props, man. But that's what the ancient scribes and Pharisees, the wicked ones, that's what they were into. It says, "But inside you are filthy, full of greed and self-indulgence." Especially when you got all that money around, you got, a big congregation, you got a bunch of women, you got a fan base. So you have access to this, dynamic, which causes that behavior. You're going to want more money. So you want your congregation to grow even more. Self-indulgence, you eating good. All right. It says, "You blind Pharisees, first wash the inside of the cup and the dish, and then the outside will become clean too. What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but filled on the inside with dead people's bones and all sorts of impurity. Outwardly, you look like righteous people, but inwardly, your hearts are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness." And we keep hearing about all kind of stuff coming out of that congregation, and we don't even know the half of it, man. It's just what people decide to come out and speak on when they leave or get kicked out. It's not a good look, man. So let me go from there, because their image is based on keeping the law, keeping the commandments. They want that appearance, like they're holier than thou. They're in order. Look at us. Look at our dress code. Let me get was it Galatians 6? Okay, this is Galatians 6, and I'm gonna start at I'll start at 11. It says, "You see how large a letter I have written unto you with mine own hand, as many as desire to make a fair shew in the flesh." Let me get that in the NLT. It says, "Notice what large letters I use as I write these closing words in on my handwriting. Those who are trying to force you to be circumcised want to look good to others. They don't want to be persecuted for teaching that the cross of Yahushua alone can save. And even those who advocate circumcision don't keep the whole law themselves. They only want you to be circumcised so that they can boast about it and claim you as their disciples. Look at us. Look at the progress we're making. Look at this. You see that? But it's all about the outward show. So that's the image that they're trying to keep up and perpetuate. Okay? So these guys got to be the wicked scribes and Pharisees coming back. All right? It's just, it's hard to not see that. But let's continue.
That you're struggling with, it was a lot of that. So that's kind of what I mean by a lot of pressure as well.
I could see, let's say I was a IUIC faithful person and I was going to review this interview. I would say, you see, they couldn't hack it in IUIC. This weak brother, this weak sister. That's why they ran back to the Christian church, because you ain't got to do nothing. It's easy over there.
Well, of course, see, the word demon means intelligence, and this is how you know vocab is a complete demon, because he knows. All right, he knows the truth. All right, like the serpent in the garden, he knew the truth, but he had to lie to Eve. All right, he knew that if she ate of that tree, you know, it would corrupt her and it would open up Pandora's box, but he had to lie to her. So he knows that, and this is why he said what he said. When you are looking for the easy route, when you're looking for comfort, a lot of Jake that come from the Christian background, when they don't last in the faith, it's because they're looking for the comfort of Christianity in Israel. You know, because when you was in the Christian church, you wasn't confined to you know, discipline, you know, being up under an order, you know, having boundaries, you know, having standards. In Christianity, you don't have to do that. You can eat what you want. You can celebrate these pagan holidays. You know, you could shave your beard off your face. You know, you could do what you want to do, all because you're not saved by the law. So don't keep the law. Just do what you please, and just, you know, use lip service. That's very easy. So he knows that, but he had to say that in a very condescending way. All right, because that's exactly what it is. You know, they have the right to leave the camp because of the hypocrisy over there, and the burden that they place on people, trying to constrain you to the law when you're not justified by the law, but by faith and the work of your faith. All right, but you still have to have a form of holiness when you're coming into this thing, and there's no holiness in the Christian world. Okay, they're hypocrites on the opposite side of the spectrum. Like the wicked scribes and Pharisees, they were hypocrites because they bound you to the law, you know, but they couldn't keep the law themselves. The Christian world, they're hypocrites because they show much love with their lips, saying that they love the Lord, they believe, they do this, but they don't do the things that he say. He'll use the writings of Paul to say that you can eat against the dietary law, and those very scriptures that they use have nothing to do with you being able to keep the dietary law or not. Like the vision of Peter, or what it says in Timothy about them telling you to abstain from meat and from marriage, and they'll use that to say, see, yeah, you're not supposed to teach that you can't eat shrimp and swine and all that, because look, Paul even warned that people were going to teach doctrines of devils, you know, teaching to abstain from marriage and from meats. You know, but that's not what he was getting at. There was an issue, a controversy about eating meat offered unto idols. Not that it was about a type of meat, according to the dietary law, but that's how they'll do it. So they do all this lip service about how they love the Most High, but they don't do anything the Bible tells them. So it's hypocrisy on both sides of the spectrum. All right, we the ones that teach it right, because there's still a code to abide by in this truth. There's still a standard. Though we're not justified by the law, but we still establish the law. We try to keep what we can keep, knowing that we're under grace. In the land of drawing water, we're to rehearse the righteous acts. So that's what we do. And it's all part of the shadow of things to come anyway, because the law is going to be enforced in the kingdom of heaven. Well, the Christian church never, prepared you, never trained you. All right. And really, you learn from the schoolmaster, which is Yahushua, and the law was the schoolmaster to come up under until Yahushua came. Because the law is actually spiritual. But anyway, I just had to reply to what that devil just said. All right. Because these two individuals, though they were burdened, all right, but they were weak too, because they were looking for some kind of ease. And we know that even Yahushua said, straight is the gate and narrow is the way that lead to salvation. All right. But the broad way, which the Christianity, that's the broad way. All right. Because it is easy. It is comfortable. All right. But listen what this devil was saying.
You would say, you see, they couldn't hack it in IUIC. This weak brother, this weak sister. That's where they ran back to the Christian church, because you ain't got to do nothing. It's easy over there.
And that's true. That's actually true. And he's trying to get ahead of it and saying, look, this is what they will say about you. Yeah, because you're a demon. All right. You know that there's really no it's really not hard at all to be in a Christian religion, where you just, you don't have to really abide by nothing, just outside of saying that you believe and confessing with your tongue. All right, let me get that in Matthew 7. Matthew 7:13, it says, enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. And that's why Christianity, cultural Christianity is such a broad religion with, so many different divisions and denominations. All right. With billions of people following after, which people over the years, they've been leaving. It's because it didn't do the people a good service. It damn sure deceived the masses of the people, stemming from a lot of dogma that come from the Christian church, starting with the Catholic Church, all type of mythologies and false doctrines. So it turned a lot of people away. All right. But Christianity is the broad way. That's why so many people, go in through that route, because it is easier. Let's look up that word, broad. And the word is
Strong's G 2149, Yerucharas. Yerucharas.
Yerucharas. And it says, from Yiris, wide, and G 5561, spacious, broad. All right, spacious. You look up the word spacious. It says, especially of a room or building having ample space. See that? And you look up the similar words or synonyms. Roomy, commodious, capacious, palatial, right? Let's look up that word commodious. Commodious, especially a furniture or a building, roomy and comfortable. Comfortable. And that's what I meant by Jake, wanting to be comfortable in this thing. So they look for Christianity within Israel. What boundaries are set, in this particular organization? How far, are there boundaries? Do I have a bit more wiggle room, where I can still do certain things of the world that make me comfortable? If I can do that here, then this is home. But if I'm gonna have a hard time and things gotta be a bit more difficult, and I gotta, fight myself and, have discipline, yeah, this ain't for me. Like in Great Millstone, you gotta be diligent. You gotta be, active in the ministry. You gotta be participating, right? Certain people that are weak over the years, they had an issue with that, and that was a reason for them to get offended and fall off or leave, because they didn't want to be up under that, that standard. So you rather be somewhere where it's more spacious and comfortable. We're not known for partying and always being in that spirit. Other groups that's all they like to do. They'll go out there and teach and then be at the club later that night or the next day. They love to cook out all the time. And the scriptures say that the house of foods is in a house of feasting. So yeah, so it's the broad way is definitely the easier way, and that's definitely the Christian church. All right. It says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way that which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. And it's not going to be easy, man. All right. You like the apostles always state, you got to be like a stoic. You fighting yourself and not giving in to the pleasures of the flesh so that you can be obedient in the spirit. Trying to follow the examples of our Lord. And he was made in the likeness of sinful flesh, and he was tempted being in that sinful flesh, but he was obedient to his cross. So anyway, let's go back to it.
You think they might say something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, but I know a lot of them feel the same way that.
Yeah, you can laugh about it, but that don't mean that that's not the truth. That's the overall truth. Because they still could have left, and he still could have continued, at least in the teachings. But why run over back to Christianity of all thing else after what you learn? How do you run back to Christianity, man? You did want it to be easier.
Yeah, I just expressed in the same way my wife feels. I know that deep down they feel that way.
They really want to control every aspect of your life. Like, you literally did not get a break. If it wasn't a Sabbath, it was a feast day. If it wasn't a feast day, they wanted you to volunteer, stand on the side of the highway and sell water and Gatorade. If it wasn't that, they want you to just be around them casually, like at their homes, or it was just always something.
That's interesting. You said about standing on the side of the street selling water and Gatorade. I've only seen that done once, and I live in Phoenix where it gets hot. Only one time did I see IUIC, and it was interesting because that was one of the few times I saw the women outside. Is that like a part? And I feel like they were wearing somewhat different clothes than normal. I don't remember exactly because it was only one time I saw this. What is that? Is that like a regular thing? I thought it was just a random Phoenix thing. The selling is, what is that? Fundraisers?
So I can't remember about the other camps outside of Kentucky. But for us, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was every Sunday. Was it every Sunday, Kevin? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was every Sunday, and we have, and we had blue shirts, and
Yes,
they
that's
said
it.
fundraise for God.
Yes, that's
We
it.
fundraise for God.
Okay, see, this is funny because
Yeah, that's come on, man. They're basically showing you their priority. You know, they was putting them and basically in captivity to raise money, and that money ain't going to the. That's like the Christian church. You know, they quote Malachi, "You're gonna show you rob God, and make you feel guilty if you ain't bringing in that money." You know, because that's what the leadership. You know, that's what they're after. They're after that filthy lucre. Okay, monetary gain, and it tells you that you're gonna have them. They're gonna make merchandise. Was that 2 Peter 2? That 2 Peter 2 and 1, it says, "But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privately shall bring in damnable heresies." That's what Nate and them been teaching over the last for a while now. You teaching hell, that's a damnable heresy. You teaching that the Edomites are going to rebel after the 1,000 years, that's a damnable heresy. All right. You teaching that the mark of the beast is 100 different things outside of what it actually is. You teaching a damnable heresy. Okay. Even denying the Lord that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And the scriptures say not to give any offense, that the ministry be not blamed. And now you giving an occasion for the adversary to speak reproachfully, and blame the ministry because of how you dudes are moving and getting down. All right. So now the truth is being evil spoken of. It says, "And through covetousness, they shall with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not." You know, so hey, these dudes are basically using you to hustle, trying to get to that money. And that was the same demon in the old school, according to the testimony that the apostles bring out. You know, I remember the apostles and bishops that were, a part of the original school. All right. Our elders and bishops, the apostles, that were back then, they was talking about how they had a time where they would have people, well, it was mainly the men, I don't know if they had the women out there too or not, but they were saying how they would have men out there selling oils on an oil table, and they would have them, literally all day selling, the oils and stuff like that. And then the leadership would come, and it would be what they call sack day, where they would take a big portion of what you made from that day. It's like, huh? You got me out here in this heat, all day, tired, and I'm doing this, and you come and you basically pat my pockets. That's straight up you enslaving your brother, man. You exercising lordship over them, and that's wicked. All right, but this is what they do. So Nate coming in that same energy, if he really got them out there doing that. Now, yeah, the scriptures do say if a man don't work, he don't eat, and that's why, hey, get you a trade, get you a hustle, or work your 9 to 5, or whatever you got to do to take care of yourself and your family. But you don't use that as a means to exploit, the congregation either. So that's what that sound like that they're doing, man. Let me go to was that 1 Timothy 3, talking about a bishop. You got the bishop and the deacon. It says 1 Timothy 3:1. It says, "This is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous. All right. So these are this is the criteria. All right. These are the standards for the office of a bishop. And he got them out there, come on, man.
Strong's G 146. Ice Hakir Dace. Ice Hakir Dace.
All right. And that's for filthy, greedy of filthy lucre. It says, gain, sordid, given to greedy of filthy lucre, eager for base gain, greedy for money. So you're not supposed to be greedy for money, man. Everybody up under you should be working, all right, and earning their daily bread, but you don't enslave them, you don't exploit them. Okay. So that's off.
I've only seen this.
But hey, like the scriptures say, they lead captive silly women laden with diverse lust. So they can talk a good one because they're good at speaking fair over there. Nate, he put on his Hollywood Broadway production voice, and he gets to speak into the congregation, and people get captivated by it. So they'll listen, and he got them out there doing that. Now, I'm not sure where in the video, maybe soon she about to bring it up, but I was watching Apostle's response, and she was going into how she was even pregnant. Matter of fact, not pregnant. She actually had a newborn baby, and she had him strapped to her side while they had her out there selling water and whatever else. I'm not sure where at in the video, but she actually said that. And if that's really true, then that's totally off.
Once that I remember at Phoenix, and I could not remember the color of the shirts. They were blue, and it did say that. And I remember whoever I was with, I can't remember. I think we were on our way back from church or something ourselves, and I was in the church, the car with from church. I was like,
let me see.
IUIC camps to do that, and they did it. We did it every Sunday for a good stretch. I can't remember how long. And they looked at her, putting in the work with the baby strapped on her,
Yeah.
And so
when my
and my wife had him strapped on her. She was wearing him in one of those little pouches on her body.
Yeah.
Standing out there, Mr. Traffic, what I'm saying? So we was kind of crazy a little bit, but
Yeah.
the IUIC members didn't say anything, and they looked up.
You know what's interesting, and this like going back to what Vocab just said about they gonna say that you going back to Christianity is because it's easy, and they laughed about it. And then you got this person leaving the scripture, right, where they say, oh, they use Proverbs 26:11, as a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. And it says, when you leave the cult. So it's like so you know what we're gonna say. So that screams to me that y'all know that we're actually right, but you have to make light of what we're saying and mock it because it's true. That's like, the scriptures say, he that knoweth to do good but doeth it not, to him it is sin. So that returning back to this, knowing that this is not the truth, this is not the way, but you doing it anyway, and then you want to say that, oh, well, they're going to say that you're guilty of this. Well, why make light of it? You returning back to Christianity, I wouldn't be happy about that, because you're going back into error. But these people are wicked like that, man. And you rarely ever see scriptures posted, but somehow they'll post a scripture that we will use. Crazy. But anyway, getting back to, because he just said it about how they had women strapping their babies while they were still out there, gaining money for their organization, calling it a fundraise for God. Come on, man, that's wickedness, man. And you doing stuff like that, man. You at that point, you're not serving the Lord, because the Lord said that he that is chief among you, let him be a servant. And I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna close out, because I gotta get ready for work. But it's like they even are forgetting the principles of Yahushua, man. This is Mark 10:42. It says, "But Yahushua called them to him and said unto them, you know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But so shall it not be among you. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be the servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." All right. And with these big, great organizations, their leadership, they're exercising authority. So if they want to put you in slavery, if they want to tell you to divorce your wife, they feel that they have that jurisdiction. You got that kind of shit going on, yeah, it's best to get away from them, man. All right, the Greek word is
Strong's G 2634. Kataku riuo. Kataku riuo.
And it says to lord against, i.e. control, subjugate, exercise dominion over, lordship, be lord over. All right, to bring under one's power, to subject oneself, to subdue, master, to hold in subjection, to be the master of, exercise lordship over. All right, total control, man. And it ain't supposed to be that way. Now, yes, you have leadership, you have elders that rule. All right, and you are supposed to submit yourself, to the elder, because they have the oversight. They're watching for your soul. So you give them that honor. All right, and you follow their example as they guide you and give you the instruction. But they're not to lord over you. Let me get 1 Peter 5. Yeah, 1 Peter 5:2, it says, "Feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over the Most High's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock." And that's what Yahushua was. And he was humble. He didn't put them in the servitude like that. He prepared them and taught them, and they went out and they assisted him in the teaching of the gospel. Okay, as his students. All right, and then they were elevated to apostleship, and the Lord left and sent them the Holy Spirit, and they were basically in the Lord's stead. And they were given the authority because they were trusted with the gospel, and they had the power of the Holy Spirit, and they went out there and they continued the ministry. And you had, thousands of Jakes, converting on a daily basis. And then you had people that were falling out, people that was getting casted out. Paul ended up, after he persecuted the church, the Lord woke him up, knocked him down a few pegs, humbled him, taught him. Then he was sent to the Israelite foreigners, continue the same mission in other areas where the Lord didn't go, to reach the scattered Jakes, the lost sheep. And they were being examples to them, man. Now it says, "And when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Likewise, you younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yeah, all you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For the Most High resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble." Nate is not humble. That panel of leadership, Bishop Kanai, that guy, he's not humble. Deacon Aviel, that guy is not humble. The guy we used to call Lemur, Deacon Ayathan, he is not humble. Them dudes are all proud as hell. Deacon Asaph. He be talking all kind of shit all the damn time. He's always in his feelings. He's not humble. So, just evaluating how them dudes get down, I'm not surprised by any of this, man. You got women with newborn babies or little children. They supposed to be at home. The scriptures, and they teach these women? One of the things that he said was that they should be keepers at home. So that means that they're supposed to be tending to business at the house while the men are out on the street. Why you got the women out there, man? They should be at home. So they don't even follow the same book that they instruct from. So this is a bad look, man. All right. And I think there was another part where when she said that they would be in the class or school and somebody would have their baby there because they gotta be there instead of being at the house and making sure the baby is good. They gotta congregate all the time. So they have their baby there and the baby crying, and one of them at the panel will be like, "Whose baby is that? Get that baby out of here." Like, huh? A baby's gonna be a baby, man. They're supposed to cry. That's how they communicate. The scriptures say in the Apocrypha Sirach, the 4th chapter, I forget which verse, but it says not to be as a lion in thine own house, and not to be frantic among thy servants. You ain't supposed to be a dickhead, man. And you could be austere at times. You could be forward, but you can be gentle too. But these dudes are being straight up dickheads, man. So, yeah, this is a bad look, man. And now they're blaming the ministry for this behavior. All right, and this doesn't excuse them. They're not right, because if they were right, they would just continue in the faith. All right, but they said, nah, we this is so bad. I'd rather return back to Christianity. That's not good. It must be that bad over there that a lot of members that leave you, they just gotta go back to Christianity. It's just too much, and they think that the whole Israelite experience is based on what they suffer in that particular organization. And not every Israelite organization is the same. We brothers don't have it's when you doing what you're supposed to do, it's pretty simple here. We live by the simplicity that is in Yahushua. All right. But you're not brothers are not under bondage, where they're just, destroying themselves, just to please men. We don't do eye service over here, man. We do what we're supposed to do because the scriptures say so. All right. And we believe in doing everything, with all our might. Being diligent, being on fire, man, being consistent. So, yeah, this is a bad look, but I'm gonna end it right there. But you hear what's going on, so more stuff is gonna be coming out, man. Because we at the final stretch. Okay, you still want to follow that particular group? Then hey, it's between you and the Most High. But I definitely wouldn't recommend being over there. All right, despite how good that they appear to be, and showing you all these gimmicks to attract you to them, But the Lord said, "My sheep hear my voice and they follow me." So anyway, with that, I'm gonna give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. To the next lesson, Shalom.